Hello, my name's Stuart Barnett. I'm the Group Sales Director from Dewberry Redpoint, publishers of the FEA Public Sector Food Service Guide 2023. We're here today to talk waste management, and I'm delighted to be joined by Paul Anderson, Managing Director of Myco UK.
Thank you very much.
So Paul, what is waste management?
Great question. It is actually the management of waste, food waste, and in particular how best we get rid of it. More importantly, what's the right thing to do with it, and can we return it back to energy that will help our planet?
And how important is that for the catering business?
At the moment, super important. It's changed in the last 3 to 4 years. The focus is really heavily on it now. It's a very good system. It ticks a lot of green boxes. It's a very clean system, depending which system you go for, and it manages the waste perfectly right through to the end result, through to biofuel or even fertiliser, and it's a neat and closed system.
So Paul, tell me the different ways you could manage food waste.
Wow. Okay, so traditionally you could use a biodigester, you could use enzymes, you could do a heating mechanism where it's actually heated to a pulp, a dry pulp. You can use a system similar to what we do, which is a homogenised system, which actually then either vacuums or pumps the waste through. At the moment, there's quite a few different methods, depending on the style of operation that you have.
And does food have to be sorted into different streams?
Do you know, if you'd asked me that a number of years ago, I would say yes. But now, depending on the system that you use, not always the case. Ideally, there are certain things that you just can't get rid of. I mean, you wouldn't put cardboard down there because although it's compostable, it doesn't generate any sort of calorific value. You really have to be careful what you're doing, but you can mix foods. In particular, right now, we can actually also mix oil with vegetable waste. And we use a different type of system that you'll probably ask me about in a minute.
So tell me about that, Paul.
Well, wonderful and great that you asked. We used a system, we homogenised food waste, okay? And people think, what on earth is homogenisation? Basically, it's where you've got two substances that you're trying to get down to equal parts. It's a bit like cream and milk. You can buy homogenised milk, the cream is blended within the milk. They still say separate, but they're equal parts. And we can do that with food waste and oil.
Okay.
So it can be stored in the tank, great calorific value, homogenised, can last up to 6 months.
So Paul, what is the best waste system for public sector caterers?
Naturally, I would be homing in on what we have to offer. But I think the most important thing is, firstly, we would talk to the operator. We'd ask them how much waste are they getting rid of? Why are they getting rid of all that waste? That's the first thing. Deal with it holistically, reduce your own waste. Then look at the systems and the services and the setup they have. Look at the distances you have to work with. And then as a company, we would tailor a system around that. If it's a very short distance, we could look at a hopper with pipe work into a tank, and that could be collected on an infrequent basis. The less you collect it, the more money you save. Or you could look at a much bigger system where it's actually vacuumed into a much bigger tank and take it from there. So public sector have a number of systems they can look at. We are talking and working with a number of sites at the moment, and they're very pleased what we have to offer. But I think the most important thing is if you're managing food waste, from our side, it would be return it to some calorific value, which is what the government is aiming for where possible. So it would be turned back into energy, help our planet.
So Paul, can you elaborate on those options?
Yes, I can. So on a short distance, we as a company would have a pumped system. So we could pump food waste up to about 5 metres high, and it could travel about 50 metres, including bends and arcs, because you can imagine not every building is a straight line.
Of course, yeah.
There are challenges. If it's a much bigger route, then we would look at a vacuum system where the food is then cooled. A bit like if you've ever gone to a supermarket and the lady has sat behind the till and she's rolled up the notes and she's put them in the tube and it goes up. That's a vacuum system. And that would be then transported to a big tank. It could be a huge tank. It could be over a number of metres. We have a system in Westfield Shopping Centre that's 4 to 600 metre run. Been in there 12 years. So different options, different distances, different systems. Ultimately, the end result is great calorific value food waste that can be returned.
Great. So Paul, are there any regulations to where your business is based?
Well, I think everybody has to be aware of regulations upon where the business is based in terms of getting rid of food waste. We know in central London, everybody hates putting things down the drains. There are laws against it. I think ultimately that may come to that, but people have systems whereby the grey water that's going down the drain has been treated and it doesn't actually create any harm. That's not our type of business. And I think anybody that's looking at getting rid of food waste into a tank or a vessel, there are certain laws, maybe not so much regulations. Getting rid of grey water, you'd have to check with your local water authorities just to check the standards. And that's the best conversation I would suggest.
Okay. So Paul, once we've eventually chosen a waste management system, tell me about training, servicing, etc.
Okay. Well, it's a whole turnkey system. From initial conception, where we draft the system, design the system, talk to the operator about what they need to get rid of, how, etc., on what basis, we would then design the system with the plants, the pumps, the vacuums, depending on the length. Once installed and project and commissioned, we would go through thorough training. Actually, importantly, on the correct way that you get rid of food waste. It's actually best to mix food waste, believe it or not, if you can, and to get it homogenised so you get the best calorific value. You have to have some water to it, but we would cover all of that. We'll go through all the training, give them guidance on the best collectors to take back to bioorganic plants. The whole process, cradle to grave.
Fantastic. And Paul, what are the benefits to all of that?
Well, firstly, it's a closed system. Okay, so it's totally enclosed. So we've got no worry about any, there's no smells, there's no vapours. It returns energy back. It's very good for the planet. It ticks green boxes in all types of aspects. But from an operational point of view, it's very neat. It's a hopper. You've got no worry then about any ergonomic factors of moving and lifting bins. Some of these bins hold 120 kilos, 240 kilos. We know not everybody's built like a tank in the kitchen. This is quite a lot of work, could be a lot of injuries. You've got pest control that you don't need to worry about. You haven't got the cost from the local council. You haven't got any black bags or waste that you're buying. It's a totally neat system. So from an operational point of view, extremely neat, extremely effective, and minimal impact on the environment. And it's very, very energy efficient in the way that we use it. It's a great return.
And are there any specific add-ons, accessories that you would recommend?
That's an interesting question, because you think if you'd installed it, you couldn't do anything. But naturally, businesses develop and they grow. So we can add additional hoppers. We can add additional runs. The other thing is they might decide that they need a bigger tank because their operation has grown. So we have actually tanks that can link one to another. So you can add one tank to another one, so we can grow. We can go 5,000, 10,000, 15,000, 20,000. So you have an operational perspective that can grow, which is good. It adds great flexibility. So we would work with the operator on that. So yeah, from that side, we could do that. We also have, believe it or not, if it holds 40 kilos of food, 40 kilos of food is actually quite a bit of weight to lift up. So we have a mobile stand where actually the food waste can be collected in it and it can be tipped from that angle into the hopper. So we work with the operator as well.
Great. So Paul, tell our viewers why they should be choosing Myco Green.
Well, don't think of Myco Green as green as the colour. Think of Myco. That would be my first wording. If you go back 4 or 5 years ago when Myco invested in the company Biotrans in Switzerland, because we needed to have a more advanced solution to our waste management, we formed a partnership and actually ended up taking over and running with the company Biotrans. That is now Myco Green, but it falls under the Myco umbrella. We're the clean solution. That's our focus. That's what we do. I'm one of 20 offices around the world, and we offer the same throughout the world. And getting rid of food waste is a big, big thing. And with the only way we split it is by talking Myco Blue, and then you've got Myco Green for the waste management side. And that's what we do. And Myco Green is extremely energy efficient. In terms of its returning energy back to the planet from the food waste it's doing. In fact, some of the operators that collect the food actually then have the food waste made into biofuel that's powering the vehicles to come and then collect the food. So it's a complete cycle of life, and that's what we do. So yeah, it's a very efficient system. It's a very closed system. It's a very ergonomic system. It ticks all the green boxes. Myco Green.
And how can our operators get in contact with you?
Well, we're readily available as we always are. There's a Myco Green website. You can contact Myco UK and it'll be put straight through to that. We have a gentleman that looks after Myco Green. But underneath that we have actually 4 other members of staff now, and as a collective, as a company, we all work towards that.